Hi everyone, I'm Mike, and this is the Sunday Art Show. So this week I was going through a portfolio of older completed works or some works in progress. So you just saw a landscape there, and here's a kind of surreal miniature cow in a load of flowers in a flower garden, kind of a surreal image there that's I haven't quite finished. And I thought, well, maybe I can find a work in progress. Here's some Highland cows in a landscape that I started that a long time ago, probably about 10 years ago now. Haven't got around to finishing it. Here's another kind of quirky, impressionist landscape. So I do this once in a while, I kind of put away work that I haven't completely finished. And sometimes I come back to it. So for example, this Dartmoor horse here, although it's incomplete, I actually did a completed version of this painting on the channel about 3 years ago. But having looked at that with fresh eyes, I kind of think, well, I'm just going to leave that version of the horse as it is. Some cows, another cow painting as well, all unfinished. But things I can just go back to if I just fancy doing something a little bit different to what I'm doing at the moment, habitually. Or, as I said, you see things with fresh eyes. So it's nice to kind of go back to things that I haven't touched for many a year and see what's going on. So this, for example, I also did a video where I briefly featured this painting, but also showed the finished painting about 3 years ago. That's a view of the River Exe. But I came across this one here. This is just a line drawing, kind of a surreal scene. We've got houses, we've got pastureland, we've got people wandering around as if they're doing their shopping. Got a house up there, another weird building back here that I've kind of made up, some belted Galloway cows. And then, as I said, people wandering around as if they're wandering through the high street in a town. So I thought, well, actually, I'd quite like to finish that surreal painting and see where it goes. So A2 mixed media paper, as I often use, and just coming in with my big synthetic mop brush and a nice fluid wash mixed up with paint left over from previous watercolor paintings. But this is mostly alizarin crimson and a little bit of ultramarine blue, perhaps a touch of burnt umber in there as well. And I really enjoy this stage of a watercolor painting. The wash is very fluid and mobile, and you can just kind of move the brush around to get different effects and let the paint do its own thing. So I continue with that colour to other parts of the painting to begin to establish a sense of light. And I decide, well, I'll have the light coming from the left-hand side, and I'm going to create long cast shadows just to make things look a little more dramatic and a little weirder as well, perhaps more of an eerie sense of light. So is this a settlement that's become overrun, and that's why the cattle and the grass are in amongst the houses? Or is this just the way things are normally? We don't know. But I just like coming back to a sketch which was more or less just off the top of my head and just playing with it really and seeing what I can create. So I've switched to a smaller brush here and a little bit of cadmium yellow to just fill in a little bit of the light, or to kind of indicate the light striking the left-hand side of that building. And I do a few more touches of yellow on the left-hand side of the people's faces and the figures themselves. So just gently creating a sense of light and a sense of 3 dimensions. So with just a couple of washes of colour, and a few little highlights, we've already got a bit of an atmosphere created on top of what was just a simple outline drawing. You can see I've now coloured in some of the distant hills and bushes, and now I'm adding in some sweeping strokes of a green mixed up with ultramarine blue and the cad yellow. And now I've switched back to the pure blue to begin to fill in some of the cattle. So generally speaking, when you're filling in large areas with watercolour, I would say think what you want to do, consider it for a moment, and then just do it really quickly. But here, where I've got a fairly careful drawing, and I need to keep the outline of each of the cattle fairly precise, otherwise they won't look realistic anymore. Well, now I do use the point of a slightly smaller brush, still a synthetic watercolour brush, to just reasonably carefully fill that in. But even here, I can just dilute the paint a little more. So when I come to the left-hand side of the rear quarters of that animal, that's going to just help to indicate that the light's coming from the left by putting the paint on in a slightly more dilute manner. And that's what I'm doing right now. So belted Galloway cows, as you'll know if you watch my videos regularly, one of my favourite animals to paint. They've got this distinctive single white stripe around their midriff, And they're kind of surreal looking in their own right, I think. So I think they work quite well for a surreal scene. So I've actually taken some Prussian blue mixed in with just a touch of the yellow to enhance those cast shadows that I indicated earlier. And then I've continued a more dilute wash of that same colour onto that central figure and the right-hand figure as well. So I find this process of picking up, coming in with some more alizarin crimson with a touch of the yellow now on this foreground figure. But I find this process of just picking up a work in progress and not working from any reference at all here, beyond, you know, just kind of having fun. So I can do what I want. You know, which colour do I think will work well in the foreground? Which colour will work well in the background? How strong should that be? Where's the light coming from? I mean, on another day for this kind of experiment, I might decide that there are two directions of sunlight. You know, we wouldn't normally think to do that. But looking at it now, I could have extended cast shadows coming from top right, diagonal left bottom. So extending the other way, which would give it an even weirder look. So I coated the foreground of that front figure. I coated the anorak, or the hooded top of the front figure in the foreground there with a red similar to the top I'm wearing at the moment. As you can see, I added in some darker shades, and you just saw me give that figure a spray with a water bottle, so I could allow that dark and medium tone to just mix quite naturally. And you can, you know, get some interesting effects doing that. So there's the finished painting. I decided to call this one "Wandering Through Town" with a question mark at the end, because, you know, what's going on here? It's all a bit weird, a bit strange. But anyway, I hope you got something out of watching me create this little surreal image, this depiction of cattle wandering in amongst people, apparently oblivious to the fact that the cattle are there, or quite content with it in a very strong, perhaps winter light, but something of a surreal scene. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Hope to see you next Sunday for the next episode of the Sunday Art Show. And please remember to like, comment and subscribe. Thanks very much for watching.